Hello everybody, this is Daniel with Peace and Plenty Homestead. So Ingrid and I, we just finished up the last batch of 25 Cornish cross hens. Now we ordered 25, but they sent an extra one just in case, 26. And all 26 did make it this time. I want to say a special patriotic thank you to all those that served. This is the 4th of July weekend, and we are enjoying a plentiful harvest, and I'm looking forward to explaining everything that we did to get here and how we divided up the chicken. So you may have seen my previous video where I actually processed the 25, 26 Cornish cross hens in 5 hours by myself without a plucker. Now I have a plucker, and I made it out of a concrete mixing machine. Took an old concrete mixing machine and drilled holes and ordered the rubber fingers and put those through it and re-geared it to work as a plucker, put an electric motor on it, and it is in pieces somewhere on the farm, and I just don't have the time or the inclination to fix it right now. But the Cornish cross hens, they have a very easy small feathers that need to be plucked, and if you do the temperature and the timing correct, the feathers just pull off very easily. So I wasn't worried about repairing the chicken plucker right now, because I didn't really feel like I needed it. It wasn't worth it time-wise. Now I may order a new one for next year, because we're going to do the American breast Meatbirds, and they have a lot more feathers on them, and we will need a larger plucker. Now I bought the one that fits on a drill bit, the largest one they have that fits on a drill bit, but that doesn't work on the drill. You would have to have an electric motor and mount that onto a piece of wood and put a belt-driven electric motor on it and then hold the chicken up to the plucker. And I may put that together this winter, but not right now. We'll do a video on that later. So I wrote myself some notes to make sure that I didn't forget anything. Most all YouTubers that I've watched, they have one method, and that is dispatch, gut, hot water, and then plucker, put them in the plucker, and then shrink wrap them, and then put them in the freezer. And I do it completely different, I think. And so I want to explain the reason I do things the way I do them, and that'll make more sense. We did have a lot of questions about why this, why that, and I'm going to try to answer those here. So number one, we don't shrink wrap the entire chicken and put it in the freezer. Number one, we think that and we have had the power go out for up to 10 days here, and we want to learn and be prepared to survive through a large power outage. And here now they're talking about rolling blackouts possibly. So canning is what we're practicing and learning how to do, and my sweet wife has mastered the canning part. So when I bring the chickens, the whole chickens up here in the cooler in the ice, I quarter them and skin them and separate the tenderloins, and she puts the thighs and the breast and whatnot into the jars, and she handles getting them into the canner. The American canner is the one that we use and is highly recommended by everybody. I made a mistake when I ordered my first American canner, and I ordered one too small, just a bit too small. The 930 is the one that works the best. You can stack 2 quarts high. So we were able to get, I believe it's 28 quarts done. So 21. We got 14 in one of the canners and 7 in the other canner, which is a little bit short. I think pints fit on top of it, but then you can't, the timing's different. So we can only get just 7 in the second canner. 21 in the first, 14 in the first, 7 in the second. So we ran 2 canners on the stove, and we'll do a different video on that. But any meat that was left over once we had filled both canners, we then went to the freezing. We prefer to freeze the legs. We put some of the legs in the canning, but we froze the legs here, and you can see that the skin is still on them. Now I like some with the legs without the skin, so I did some without the skin, some with the skin. I like the seasoning right on the meat. I don't like it really on the fat. So that's one reason why we skin. The other reason is because we're separating the tenderloin from the breast, and we just don't want to harvest the fat. And really not interested in eating the fat along with the breast meat. So we do a clean. So this is the thighs right here that didn't make it into the canning process, and they're skinless. We do those skinless. And this is the chicken breast that did not make it into the canning process, and skinless right there. Now, some people ask, why pluck the feathers and then skin it? I really haven't found a way to skin it and keep the fat, to pluck the feathers and keep the skin on the wings and on the legs and separate it out. And there's so few feathers on the Cornish cross that it's easier just to go ahead and pluck all the feathers and then separate out the skin, leaving it on the legs and on the wings. It just seems to work best for me. If anybody has any other ideas on how to do that, that'd be great. You can put that down in the comments. This right here, this pile right here, is the wings, and those still have the skin on them, and we will barbecue those, smoke those, and they are really nice and big wings. Good 4th of July. Everybody, our family is celebrating getting together for 4th of July later on in July. It'll probably be the 3rd week in July that everybody will be here for that. So there's plenty of wings right here. And then this is the tenderloin. Now we keep the tenderloin separate. We always freeze the tenderloin. We don't put any of the tenderloin in the jars, and we deep fry these. So we will cut these into little chunks, and we will put these in egg. We'll blend up some eggs, dip them in the eggs. Then we'll dip them in the buttermilk pancake flour, and then we'll put a little Creole on them, and then we put them in the deep fryer in peanut oil. We use peanut oil, and we'll deep fry those, and they are awesome. And we do the rabbit tenderloins the same way. The buttermilk pancake mix is the key on that, and the Creole seasoning is really the key for that. And I can hardly wait already for a couple of weeks from now. We're saving the wings and the tenderloins for when the family is here. We're going to do a big cookout with that. And then over here, I've got the carcass. Now what we did is, one of the things that I used to do was, I would, in the processing process, I would cut the legs off and put them in a bag, and seal them up in like a sandwich bag, a large sandwich bag, and put those in the cooler. And then when we're in the quartering and the canning process, we do all that in one day. We did everything in one day, probably about 5 or 6 hours to can and quarter and freeze everything and grind everything in one day. And the legs, I did not cut the feet off of the legs this time. I just put the whole carcass into the ice, and I washed the feet twice during the dispatch process. At the beginning I washed it, and at the end of the dispatch I washed the feet and the body twice. But I'll probably go back to just putting the legs in a large sandwich bag and putting them in the cooler. That way I can grind feet. Put the feet in a sandwich bag, a large sandwich bag, and put it in the cooler. That way it'd be a little bit more sanitary. And that way the feet can stay cool with until we get to the carcass, because we wait 2 or 3 days until we quarter it. And then we grind everything on the same day. The carcass, everything that's left over, we grind up and put in these little sandwich baggies like this. And this will go back and be chicken food to the chickens. Sometimes we feed it to them raw. Sometimes we'll cook it in with some eggs that are left over, or cook it in, just warm it up. You know, they digest it and get a little bit more protein out of some things that are cooked. So especially like the oats and things like that. Oh, let's look and see what else. I got the 9:30 quarter. Well, that is a lot of information on the chicken right there. The main thing that I wanted to be sure and tell you was the 9:30 American All Standard, the future chicken food that we've got right here. We can feed the pigs with this. We can feed the chickens, and we'll sparse this out all winter long to try to help us with the chicken feed, the cost of the chicken feed. I wanted to show you one more thing while we're here and pulling all this stuff out of the freezer, and that's the strawberries that we did this year. And what we did is we harvested them. We used to cut them into quarters and then freeze them, but we found that it's a lot faster just to freeze the entire strawberry. And we laid them on a tray, spread them out on a tray, and let them freeze in the refrigerator, in the freezer. Once they froze, we took them off the tray and put them in a shrink wrap bag, and we shrink wrapped them. And now that's really thin, it'll be easy to break them apart and do smoothies with them. I mix this in with a banana. My sweet wife does this for me. She'll mix them with a banana and some protein mix and some almond milk. And the almond milk and the protein mix all works together great. So the strawberries was the last thing that I wanted to mention in the video. I appreciate everybody watching. Thank you so much. Please like, share, and subscribe. We look forward to seeing you in the next video.